Welcome back. If you missed the first half of this two-part episode, click here to go watch it. Last time, we introduced a scientist from England whose ideology constantly clashed with Leibniz, and we finally get to see him. Isaac Newton worked in the same field as Leibniz, but Newton was across the English Channel, so their research was separate. Even though their research and findings were very similar, they seemed like competitors since their theories had different names. In 1687, Newton published Philosophiae Naturalis Principia Mathematica, which is Latin for Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy. This book laid the groundwork for many physicists in the future and led to the development of calculus. As I said before, they seemed like competitors, but in reality, their research gave the same results and, in essence, were the same. And with Newton's research on energy wrapping up, we finally get to go to the United States for our first American scientist. Benjamin Franklin was one of the first scientists to notice, record, and complete experiments around the idea of electricity in nature. As we all know, his most famous experiment was when he flew a kite with a key attached to it in a lightning storm. No. There was never any actual proof that he completed this experiment. Also, many modern scientists, and mythbusters, note that he would have been electrocuted like other scientists that attempted the same experiment. What most likely happened, although not able to be proven, was that he either attached a metal pole to the ground and watched it get struck by lightning from a safe distance, or he flew it in a cloud before the thunderstorm and collected a low amount of electricity. After this discovery, he decided to rename the types of electricity, virtuous and resinous, to positive and negative, respectively. Along with the renaming of electricity, he also discovered the principle of conservation of charge. Put simply, charge cannot be created nor destroyed. Benjamin Franklin made many major contributions to science, especially with electricity. Alongside his discovery of natural electricity and lightning, there were some scientists in Italy making some shocking discoveries. Back in the late 1770s, Galvani began researching what would eventually be called electrochemistry. He did his research by connecting two metals to a frog's leg and to each other. When he did this, he noticed that the frog's leg moved. He called this phenomenon animal electricity, and it was widely accepted theory from 1780 when he published it to 1799 when his colleague and friend made his own discoveries. Volta began to doubt that animals created electricity, and he tried to find the true source of the electricity. What he determined was the frog leg was acting both as a conductor and a detector. As a final piece of proof to disprove his colleague, he replaced the frog's leg with a brine-soaked piece of paper and found similar results as he did with the frog leg. With these results, he decided to basically rub his success in Galvani's face by creating something he called a voltaic pile. This pile consisted of discs of zinc and silver, separated by discs of cardboard soaked in brine. This was the first battery in history that could create a steady current. These discoveries led to the electrochemical series and the law of electromotive forces, and since these advancements were discovered by Volta, the SI unit was named the volt. The invention of the voltaic pile was a huge scientific milestone, and helped with the discovery and understanding of electromagnetism by Faraday used the voltaic pile and revamped the design so it could generate a higher output. He replaced the discs of zinc with sheet zinc, the silver discs with halfpenny coins, and the brine-soaked cardboard with paper moistened with salt water. Around the same time that Faraday created this stronger battery, the phenomenon of electromagnetism was discovered by During a lecture, Ørsted discovered that a compass needle moved away from magnetic north when a current flowed through a nearby wire. With this newfound knowledge of electromagnetism, combined with his previous knowledge of the voltaic pile, Faraday was able to build a device called a homopolar motor. The setup he used consisted of a goblet filled with mercury with a magnet in it. The top of the magnet, the negative or north end, was slightly above the pool of mercury, and the positive or south end was connected to a wire that left the goblet. That positive end went out to a modified voltaic pile, which then connected the wire that was hung above the mercury with a small hook attached. A rod of copper was attached to that hook, and whenever the system was on, the rod of copper rotated around the magnet. A simpler version of this could be created today using a AA battery, copper wire, and neodymium magnets. When the magnet is attached to the negative end of the battery, and the copper wire is bent into a shape that connects to the positive end and wraps around the magnets, it rotates. With this motor, he was also able to create another device, the homopolar generator. This device uses the same principles as the homopolar motor, except instead of electrical energy being converted into mechanical energy is being converted into electrical energy. The only major error that Faraday made was when he failed to credit his mentors, Wallison and Davy. When the Royal Society heard of this, they prevented him from continuing his research for many years. Now that we have an understanding of how electricity works, a way to generate electricity, and a battery to store the electricity, all we need is something to use the electricity on, preferably something that generates light, because candlelight isn't really the best source. Fortunately, in 1879, somebody was able to provide that. Edison began working on an electrical illumination system in 1878, and after trying several metals such as silver for the filament, he decided to use carbon filament. His first successful test was on October 22, 1879, and it lasted for 13.5 hours. He continued to improve his design, and by November 4th, 1879, he was able to apply for a patent, and on January 27, 1880, it was granted to him. Later that year, he founded the Edison Illuminating Company, and began work on a steam generating station. Finally, in January of 1882, Edison was able to switch on the first steam generating station in Holborn Viaduct in London. Meanwhile, in France, a young Serbian scientist was hired to the Continental Edison Company to design and make improvements to the electrical equipment. This scientist was In September of that same year, the Edison Illuminating Company established the first inventor-owned electric utility on Pearl Street Station in New York. This distribution system provided 110 volts direct current to 59 customers in Lower Manhattan. This DC system was able to provide electricity for street lamps and several private homes within a short radius of the station. In June of 1884, Edison decided to relocate Tesla to New York City, where he began working in Edison Machine Works. He began working on simple electrical engineering and quickly progressed to solving more difficult problems. After showing his extreme talent, Tesla was offered the task of completely redesigning the Edison Company's direct current generators. In 1885, he said he could redesign Edison's inefficient motor and generators, making an improvement in both service and economy. With that, Edison told Tesla, "There's $50,000 in it for you, if you can do it." After several months of work, Tesla completed the design and inquired about payment. Edison told Tesla that he didn't understand American humor. Instead of giving him the $50,000 like originally promised, he was offered a $10 a week raise. With that, Tesla promptly resigned. Edison continued work in electric generation and distribution, and in 1907 he founded Commonwealth Edison, or as you better know it today, ComEd. This company lasted for about 90 years until 2000, when UNICOM, ComEd's parent company, merged with Pecco to form Exelon. As we make it to today, we see that Exelon and ComEd are still electricity generation superpowers, and we still use a modernized version of Faraday's generator. If you like this new series, click here, and if you want to see more Tech of the Future and energy videos, click here. Also, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to click here to like it, and if you want to see more content, click here to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you next time.